Hello, Will. Thanks for joining me today. It's great to chat with you.
Thanks for having me.
So for everyone, Will is a content SEO and performance marketing expert, and he's the head of content of SEO content at Pipedrive. Again, Will, thanks for taking the time. I guess we'll hop right into it. Pipedrive is a pretty well-known player in the SaaS industry, especially in the CRM segment. I used to work closely in the field in sales, and so I know of Pipedrive. So I'm quite interested to hear what the SEO and content department are doing to keep Pipedrive basically among one of the leading players. So maybe we can start by getting kind of a highlight of last year, or a couple of highlights. I really want to know more about what kind of your biggest win on the one hand was from last year, and also your biggest learning. You can say mistake, but really learning. Whichever one you'd like to start with.
They're kind of connected, actually. So essentially, we did a lot of work to improve the schema markup on the website last year. And a lot of that initially at the start of the year was, and actually throughout, was directed at some FAQ how-to. So, really trying to get in those cert features, like the questions that often appear in the concertina at the top. So we identified a lot of long tail question keywords related to how-to and frequently asked questions across the whole website. Added those to landing pages, blog articles, etc. And that was very successful. We managed to rank quite well across the board for those keywords, and also we managed to get in position 0 for quite a lot of the pages that we optimized. Now, I'm sure many of your viewers will know that I think partway through the year, maybe I think September it might have been, Google announced that they were not going to be looking at that sort of schema markup anymore for FAQs at how-to, so they won't be ranking those results, which is obviously a big blow. We put a lot of work in. So the biggest learning is actually, even if Google changes its mind, the project is still worth doing. That's because even though we lost those rankings, essentially, for the work we've done, we still maintain a lot of long-tail keyword rankings. So because we've done all the work into creating specific sections where we're answering these frequently asked questions, people are still asking those questions, even if they're not appearing in the people also ask section of your search. So despite Google changing its mind, our project is still worth doing. Just, you've got to find the benefit to your strategy.
Yeah. Did Google just simply discontinue that type of schema, or did they replace it with something else?
Just discontinued it. At the time, because I was in a presentation, John Mueller was sort of talking through the reasoning behind it. And it felt very much like, as with a lot of Google's reasoning, they felt that they would be giving visitors to Google and users of Google a better experience, basically, by getting rid of these schemas. Obviously, a lot of people have put a lot of hard work into it. Maybe reading behind the lines, there were potentially some bad actors just trying to, get in those responses as much as possible without actually necessarily giving the best answer to those questions, which is often a reason that Google changes its algorithm and its prioritization. But because we hadn't just tried to rank, we'd actually tried to answer those questions in as best way as possible and give people the information they wanted. We continue to rank for those keywords longer tail keywords even after the change.
Right. So maybe just a question about the implementation of this, just a curiosity. So how did you, if you could kind of walk me through the process of first find those opportunities for schema, as in keywords to target, and then implement them in or either your existing articles or create new articles to target them, and also maybe just a mention of how did you implement the schema itself? Is it like what kind of whatever you can share, whether you're using WordPress or it's a custom built site, just some details, just kind of get an idea of how the implementation worked.
Sure. So our CMS is it's craft, so it's not as well known, but it just allows it has a lot of customization at the back end, which is really powerful. Yeah, craft. And also from a usability perspective, it's got all the features that your WordPress other sort of similar CMS have. So first step was to work with the development team to activate those schemas on the website, create components that which actively mark up schemas on site, and then we just did research. Looked at the keywords we're already ranking for. Pretty much every good keyword tool we're using, SEMrush, has the information around related keywords once you put in the keyword that you want to rank for. And often those take the form of questions. And then besides that, we also, just ask people around the business, customer facing, all sort of questions that you have frequently that were related to the product pages that we identify opportunities on. And then it was just a question of writing. And actually, we did find that we sped things up by utilizing AI for this. So we're able to get like an initial short response from an AI tool, but we were then able to better construct. So as I said, we were actually giving people the information they wanted. That's what Google's all about right now, helpful content. And it's, it said, even if it's built by AI, as long as it's helpful, as long as you're actually giving people what they want, that's good. So yeah, that was the basic process. And then we're still finding opportunities to add FAQs to pages, and we're still seeing value in that, even if the schema's not being recognized by Google search. And in fact, you never know, maybe they turn it back on. They did turn it back on momentarily. They didn't tell anyone, presumably for a test, and then they turn it off again shortly after. So they're always trying to find the best solutions for their products, Google. So things can change, and as I said, regardless of what we put in, we're still serving customers with users with what they needed. So in that respect, it's worked for us.
Yeah, makes sense. And it just made me think that they may use it in SGE. I think SGE will be using a lot of schema markup. So you may find this effort's not wasted in the end if they somehow manage to use it within SGE.
Yeah, interesting. I've had a few conversations with people about SGE and their like position zero search results, the search features. And what I've heard from a couple of sources is that it's basically going to be like your position zero on steroids, as it were. It's going to be doing that quick answer you get, but generating it rather than finding it on site. As long as they're linking to sources, then we're good.
Yeah.
Right. See that.
Cool stuff. Now, the perhaps even more interesting question is, what are you going to do? What are you going to focus on this year?
Sure. So key initiatives are prepare for SGE. There's a lot that we still don't know. there's a lot that we'll never really know, but there's already been some really helpful studies into what impact it could potentially have, where the impact's going to be most felt. I mean, we've accepted that it is going to have an impact to search. It's going to take up some search real estate, and we don't know how Google is going to balance their own needs and being an AI provider that is competitive, and they want to be the best, obviously, against the likes of OpenAI and is it Alchemy? Do the other big one?
Yeah,
That's
Perplexity.
Perplexity. That's the one. Thank you. So how they balance that with one of their main forms of revenue, which is search, right? Paid search. So we're working with a paid team and a tech SEO team, both really strong to work out how that looks. Focusing in on what really drives conversion. That's another key focus of ours. So we've done a lot of foundational work, especially on building a blog, building out different parts of the funnel to help people navigate through. Now we're really focusing on what experience and what content will help people convert. We're really good at capturing people with the SEO optimized content that we produce, but there's definitely opportunities where we could optimize the pages they land on to encourage them to take the next action, or at least to have that brand recall, so that 2 months down the line, when they're like, maybe it's ready to get a CRM, they think about Pipedrive. And then just reporting on all that. So we, like every SEO team, there's a lot of things you can report on. And just being efficient with that reporting is a key focus for us. Finding the right tools to do it, finding the right metrics to develop and build out, the dashboards to produce, and how we keep our teams in the loop, those others in the loop, and the team itself focusing on the right goals.
Covered a lot of ground there. Maybe we can focus a little bit on SGEs, and that's a major topic for everyone. What things are you sure of, or maybe you cannot be sure, but what are the theories you are betting on, and therefore the actions you are betting on? For example, you're no longer creating or focusing less on top of the funnel content because that can be answered very easily by SGE, or you're doing more schema markup because that may be used by SGE. Can you give a feeling, of a direction of kind of the actions you are taking preemptively, kind of your best bets?
Yeah, I think you've covered a couple of them for sure. So ensuring that we're still answering those questions with the expectation that SGE will source, so that even if people are, because a lot of keyword terms are simple question, simple answer, so we still need to rank for those, and we haven't changed our mind on that, but it is something that we're keeping an eye on. And then the other is to be honest, with Google having to find that balance between continuing to provide a search experience that both brings customers in and generates revenue, those two come in hand in hand, and also being a real competitor, if not leader, in the AI market. We believe that search generated experience will be rewarding the same sort of behaviors that helpful content, I think people say that they like to reward, which is producing the best content to answer the question as possible, and answering that as well and as in the detail that is necessary. So yeah, they're the two sort of big assumptions that we're running on, because if we start to think search generative experience, and to be honest, there have been studies that suggest it is, to a certain extent, surfacing results that are very different from the average search pages. If that is the case, then we've got no foundation, because we have no idea what SGEs could be rating as good content and pulling from. And also, I think maybe on top of that, the third bet is we think people will still use search.
Say it again.
We think people will still use search.
Right.
They won't just go to ChatGPT or Genesis to get their answers. They'll still want to click through, find a reliable source, find someone they can trust, maybe read around a subject matter more than they're able to just on Google. So yeah, and they're the bets that partly we've chosen to make, but partly we've had to make based on the unknowns that are out there.
Makes sense. Yeah. Yeah, it's very reasonable assumptions and decisions, I would say. Have you made any changes to content? So maybe in preparation for SG, for example, one thing I've heard come up right now is making the content, so basically the opposite of the skyscraper technique, where you try to fit everything in one article. Instead, you just answer very specifically that one query in a very short article, but very focused one. So maybe, I don't know, 500 words or something. I've heard that trend come up. I've also tested it a little bit, and I've heard some. I know one person also tested it with decent results. So I'm curious, anyways, if what you're thinking in terms of, maybe you've recognized that the skyscraper is no longer, the thing, and so kind of where generally where your content strategy is headed from the point of view of, say, length.
Yeah, actually, it is something we're exploring. It's not a transition, it's more expansion. We're going to be doing both simultaneously. We're not going to reduce the amount of skyscraper content we do, which is, at least in English market, very much our key focus. But we are going to be looking at producing shorter form content around longer tail keywords, or keywords where there's not an immediate clear intent for people landing on that page for them to then go and buy a CRM, but there's a relevancy in the subject matter to our customer base, our user base, our potential user base. So personally, having tested shorter form content, it's, I see the saying, trying to reconnect online. Are we still recording, Sorry, it's a
I
break.
think so. I also see it. Okay, it's gone. I like how this is collaborative. It shows both of us the same thing. It's like we both know what's happening.
So yeah, I'll go back a little bit. So we feel that we need to test both thoroughly, and I don't think it's a case of either or. It's a case of situational, which is best for the purpose. With the terminology that we're ranking for, or we target, skyscraper does work, but as I said, there are those other opportunities. The other thinking is we don't want to do anything that's going to hurt us now to help us down the line. So a good example is helpful content did hurt us because it started making connections between pages where we had done exactly that. We'd identified 3 or 4 keyword terms that you could create a scar statement page, or you could spread out across different articles. And helpful content, because all those terms are relatively related, started cataloged. So those 4 articles, 2 suddenly competing for the same keyword. So we're wary that has been, at least in our case, an unintended consequence of the helpful content update. And we're wary that if we start to split out our content that's already skyscraper too much, we could have that issue again, which is why it's more about producing new and testing new with those longer tail, lower search volume, less intent keywords where we can go after a number and they're very different in subject matter, so there's a real chance that they'll compete, but we can still cluster them based on an overall theme.
Yeah, it's interesting. When something like this happens, like you're reminded Google is not a finished product, and
that's the thing. As an SEO, you're working with a product that's constantly changing. You have to be constantly changing. So it's a good mindset to have.
What about AI, Will? Are you using AI in content production?
Yes. Yeah, we're using content production. It's very much only being used currently for macro content generation. High production levels of, say, lots of meta description rewrites or lots of FAQ creations or or the like, or localizations of shorter pieces of content. And we are continuing to test it to ensure that it actually improves productivity. At this point in time, it definitely doesn't improve quality. Like, there's no way, especially ChatGPT, there's no way that it is going to produce something that's anywhere near the quality that we can get from the writers and the editors that we use and have within the team. So there's always that next step following the AI use of having someone within the team who reviews, updates, rewrites. But we have found that it sped things up, especially when there's a lot of microcopy to generate. And we're also conscious that it's, as we said with Google, it's not a finished project. In fact, it's constantly changing, sometimes for the worse, sometimes for the better. So if you turn away from AI for even a second, if you say, this tool's never going to be where we need it to be, it could have suddenly sprung up into being the best tool for your use case. I was talking to someone in my team today, actually, and they were talking about Gemini. There's other tools we use as well, like many of the tools that we use have their own AI functionality that they're bringing in. So that's also something we're constantly exploring, testing tools against one another, testing the new features, just trying as much as we can to see how it can improve things, but also essentially that gives us some insight into how it's going to change the search landscape as well.
Yeah, sounds again like a measured approach. Yeah, that's the only good use case I've heard. Using it for kind of producing these micro optimizations at scale. I definitely not heard it work very well for producing the content itself, just because of the quality. And there's been some case studies, of sites produced solely with AI content, but all of them have dropped eventually. They have a rise and a fall.
They have that crawl and then very true. We have actually got another potential use case. So the level in which we use ChatGPT currently, we have access to build our own sort of custom GPTs models, and It's great at, say, you conduct a case study interview with a customer. It's great at just grabbing everything from that case study that you need in the final published article and just structuring it in a way that then you can write the content. So as long as it has a very simple task with a short prompt, it will do something pretty quickly. It hallucinates still all the time. It forgets everything. So keep it simple, and it can be very helpful.
Yeah. Cool. Actually, so just had another thought. Did you see the
Sure.
SEMrush Copilot?
I did very briefly, but I wasn't able to look into it. Yeah.
thought it
I
was
think I
pretty
just saw the
interesting.
headline, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, it gives you like keywords that declined, or I particularly found it useful for or was it like lost backlinks, lost positions, lost. I think it has potential. Anyways, it was just a thought that these tools are now integrating AI, and I think it will make them better.
Yeah. That's definitely what I've found with the best applications of AI. It needs to be in a pre-existing environment where it's just pulling from the data that's already there.
Right.
If you have just like an AI functionality just loose, and then you're having to put the data in and expect something to come out of it, that's where it struggles. But if it knows its role, and I've had some success as well with being like the classic prompt start. You are a SEO content writer, or you are a data analyst. This is your role. This is what you have to do. When it knows what it has to do from a functional standpoint.
Interesting. Good. We also wanted to chat. You had a slide about I think it was your editing process.
Yeah, sure. Let me now. Can I share? That's the question.
That's a good
I need to
question.
resize this window first of all. Yes, there is a share button. It's not share.
Okay.
So yeah,
Let's
this is
see.
a simplified version, but it was a pretty good idea of what we work on, how we work through it. So first things first, the product, what they want to do, the customer as well. So that should really
SEO is under product in Pipedrive.
Sorry, as in SEO exists within marketing, but we need to know what the product is doing in order to target the right keywords at the right time, essentially.
Right.
So this is product and customer. I should say how we're going to be promoting the product, how we're going to be approaching the customer, what the customer wants, how we can give them what they want. That feeds into our keyword research. So,
how do you? I'm sorry, Will. I find this. So this is a huge problem in a lot of companies because they do it the other way around. They start with keyword research, right? Here you're showing the first step as product strategy, and then customer insights as the initial step. Can you perhaps expand a little bit on this?
Of course. So our product marketing team and our product team, they are very communicative about what they're doing. They have regular monthly calls between product and marketing in order to see what the roadmap is, see when features are going to be launched. So big features, like we've got going in a minute, or a good example would be our lead booster add-on or a campaigns add-on. We'll often be among the first teams that the product marketing team will come to and say, look, in a few months' time, we've got this coming out. How can we talk about it in a way that's going to be discoverable through search? So we'll, at that point, do some in-depth keyword research to find, for the project marketing add-on that we had, that we launched. We looked around all the projects, marketing keywords, factor them by intent, discussed at which point we would be launching each one. Ahead of time, even if you don't have the feature, if you can talk about or talk around a keyword term that your current feature set already provides. So at that point, people were using Pipedrive for project management. So we still launched the project management product section, and we just framed it differently. That enabled us to rank before the launch of the products. So when it launched, it already had a existing feature page that was ranking for certain keywords. Customer insights.
Very cool.
It's we work very closely with those teams, and they're good at what they do. And with that level of preparation, we have had real successes with the SEO side of our launches. The customer insights side of things, everything is through the lens of how are we serving the customer? What does the customer need? What are their jobs to be done? What do they need to solve? So the product strategy will all contain that information. And we're like, right, we're launching this feature because we know our customers have been asking about this. We have competitors in the market who do something similar, it's just a feature that we've recognized could really solve a problem that a lot of our customers have, but they may not have thought about it. And that all goes into the project strategy, so that when we get those materials, we have everything we need. As well as like the personas that we target, the sort of like problems and challenges they have, how their buying process might look, who they might need to bring in to make those decisions. And all that information can be seen in the final SEO reports because, project manager, for example, if we know that a lot of our customers are saying, Pipedrive is great for sales, but what about when I need to manage the next stage of things, which is building out what the customer actually, what the user's prospect is actually looking for. If you've got like a complex product that you're selling, and then they'll be, they'll need a project, but they need it to sync and integrate with the CRM. So we'll be looking at keywords like SEO project management, CRM project management integration, how to manage projects with the CRM, because we know based on a strategy that these are the challenges that our customers and potential customers have already that we can solve.
And it's great to have product marketing. I assume the product marketing team does most of this customer research work and kind of
We have a research team that is very hot on this, so they work alongside either marketing, either product, to identify exactly what questions to ask, and get the data that's really going to help us formulate a go-to-market strategy.
That's really nice to have.
Yeah, we're in a good position, for sure.
It makes me think about smaller teams, and if you just have if you don't really have product marketing, you're just an SEO. You have to get these insights somehow, because it's the right way of going about your craft, but you don't really, maybe you don't even know how, because you're an SEO, right?
Yeah, that is true. For smaller teams without the luxuries that I have, and my team has, I would say my recommendation would be trust to the keywords. If you can nail your keyword research, the answers are that. Just see what people are searching for, That would be a really real good indication as to what it tells you what they want, right? Obviously, there's a little bit of a disconnect between what the search and what they actually are looking for. But if you can read the cues, as it were, that those keyword analyses it are giving you, as well as like looking at your own data, what pages are performing, why are they performing, not just in terms of like why are they ranking, but also why are they converting, why are they keeping people on page, why are they managing to send people on to the next stage of the process that you want to send them on to. That's all going to be really supportive to your strategy. If you don't have that team that understands the product, you can glean a lot about the potential user and the right messaging from the keyword search.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Good. Thanks a lot for diving deeper into this. I think it's really interesting.
Sure. Do you want me to run through any more?
Yeah, let's just go through the funnel here.
Sure. So because we operate in a number of different languages, we're always considering how we can optimize content across those markets. So localization comes very early, as does design, because I think design really makes a huge impact on the user experience when they're running on page. And not just, the images they're seeing, but how you've structured the page. A lot of the most positive tests we run are based on the design implementation, a tweak, a change. It can be something small, like changing a button color, or something big, like adding a whole new component, but that's hugely integral, so it's very early on. We have pretty detailed review stages, so there's always a content sort of story edit, then an SEO review, and then a final edit where it's just line for line using Grammarly, making sure everything is as it should be. And there's other reviews as well, like if we work with the product team, the stakeholders involved, so product might need to review the content. Yeah, if we're working with another stakeholder around the business, say it's a customer case study, obviously that customer will need to review it. That's a pretty good indication. And when it comes to optimization, in this graph it says it's coming after the content's published, but actually we're always thinking about optimization. We're always looking at the reports that we're getting from our tools, like low-hanging fruit opportunities. As I mentioned, being hit by cannibalization, any improvements we can make to the schema, to the metadata, etc. We're always looking at different indicators that say, hey, there are plenty of tools out there that say, hey, here's 4 pages or 5 pages where actually they don't have as many links as they should, so we just have to find cross-linking opportunities on the website. Or here's some, we do a keyword research to find all the pages that are currently ranking 4 to 8 that we think with a bit of a push we could get to the top 3.
Yeah.
And you're always identifying basic keywords, so don't really optimize for one keyword at a time, but we'll try and make sure that there's some secondary keywords we're adding, and then use a tool called ClearStump, which helps us to identify like relevant terms that beyond the keywords themselves, so we should include in the article, in order for it to basically be talking around the same subject matter that the top rankings the websites are. And then it's uploaded.
Very, very interesting. And very well structured and comprehensive this process. It's interesting because I've personally worked in smaller companies usually, so it's nice to see the process at scale. How everything kind of gets optimized. One thing that's also a hot topic that I'm interested to ask you is, and perhaps the last thing, is the EEAT, right, of the content, and specifically I think it's the trust, or maybe how do you see EEAT? In my opinion, trust in terms of the demonstrated subject matter expertise of the author is important. That's just my opinion. Yeah, how do you see EEAT? How do you go about it, and how do you optimize for it?
Yeah, good question. Obviously, it's what Google says it's most interested in, especially when it comes to helpful content. And we also think it's know that it's to be a clear indicator for the the AI tools that are being used in the future as to what content is going to be worthwhile. But also, it will distinguish us from those AI tools. That AI generated content that's out there, right?
Biggest differentiator, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So our content, we always try to, as much as possible, give people actionable advice. We make sure we're not talking around any subjects that we, aren't at least in some way experts in or have expertise in. Even the shorter form content I mentioned earlier, still around business. We're a business, we're a successful business. We've got people who can talk about that. And customers will find it useful. So that's definitely.
So you use internal subject matter expertise, basically.
Yeah, well, a mixture of external and internal. So we've got great freelance writers, and then if we need that level of insight from an internal support, our sales team here. So we're all three salespeople at all. That's definitely something we look at. And yeah, if we can just put as much interesting components, images, advice, quotes, sourcing, statistics around the content that we produce, not only does it make it a more enjoyable read for the visitor, it also helps bump up that EEAT ranking. And authorship is also something we're exploring because it's definitely another cool and clear indicator for that authority and trust. I think we're in a good place anyway. We're a trustworthy company. People know what we produce. We're good scores across all the directories, so that definitely helps. That the product is so well regarded.
Yeah, true.
I suppose so for like a smaller team. Because I'm obviously talking from a position of privilege, but if you a small team, if you're not established yet, just look at what use authorship as much as possible. Promote the brains in your company, because there will be those. All entrepreneurs can offer something. So yeah, definitely do it.
Thanks a lot, Will, for your time.
Thanks, Christian. I hope that was good. I hope the recording comes out okay. And it's not just a second of the as we found in the testing.
We'll see. Anything you want to mention finally, or are we good to close?
Let me have a little look. No, I think, although I don't talk about many of the notes I've made, then, I think it's still covered pretty much everything all this stuff.
Maybe
thank you for having me.
Maybe
next time, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for having me, and, look forward to seeing this study goes live. And, you can find me on LinkedIn. It's just my name. And you can, check out Pipedrive across all the social networks as well if you're interested in finding a sales tool.
Nice. Sweet. All right.